Welcome everyone to another CTC webinar. My name is Sean Zerbis, Technical Evangelist at CTC Software. And today we're going to be talking about a BIM batch suite product called Project and Family Upgrader. We're going to go over a comprehensive introduction to this particular tool. First off, let's talk about the issue we're trying to solve. I mean, annually, many of us go through a project upgrade or at least a family library upgrade process in a lot of cases. And in some cases, we upgrade projects throughout the year. In a lot of those cases, there's links that are dependent upon those projects. And it can be a little bit tedious to go ahead and do all that. I mean, some of you may have tried using the Autodesk family upgrade script. That, of course, has some problems. Usually it fails very frequently. My experience has been about every 50 families it has a problem and I have to restart it again, and it's just kind of trouble. Projects usually just get handled manually. There's no real automated way up until now to be able to do that, and a lot of the problems have to be handled manually in some form. So the whole purpose of this tool, the Project and Family Upgrader, is to help automate this full process. It can help save you time, can help save you frustration. I mean, these upgrades that are going to happen, we're going to have to deal with these on BIM 360 projects or local projects or whatever, and we're going to have to run these upgrades. And I'm going to show you in this webinar how you can actually do this, how you can leverage these tools to make this process as streamlined, as easy as is possible. We're going to go over a couple of things here. First of all, how do you get access to the Project and Family Upgrader once it's installed? Where do you find it? We're going to take you through the basic interface of it, and we're going to take a look at how you can set up and plan for a project and link upgrade workflow. I'll also kind of talk a little bit about the family upgrade process as well. That one's much more simplistic in its function because families are just open and save with an audit, but this tool can do it in an automated way. And at the very end, I'm going to show you how you can get your hands on this suite of tools. So with that, let's jump live into Revit. So I'm going to go here to Revit itself. And this is going to be kind of an oddity for most of my webinars. Normally, what I would be doing is having a project open and doing some work from within the project environment, because most tools that run in Revit require either the family editor environment or the project editor environment active for the add-in to do some work. This particular tool, though, is actually a little bit different. You can save some time with this tool because you can just go directly to the CTC Software tab at the top, and from the BIM batch suite where this tool is installed, you can use the Project and Family Upgrader right from here with no projects active. You can see there's a few of our tools that don't require any projects be active. When I click on this, it's going to open up the Project and Family Upgrader interface. This is the one we're going to focus most of our time, is on the projects area. There's also a Families tab here as a secondary tab. So both of these tabs have the ability to browse a specific folder. They have the ability to grab as many pieces of content as you want. If you were to open this tool up like I did just now and it didn't actually find anything, it's just because I need to refresh this. And I can hit the refresh button. That is true also on the family side. This whole top section is the same interface for both projects and families. The difference is what goes on down here at the bottom, what options you have. And see, for projects, there's more options than there are for families. Again, families are mostly just open and save. In the case of a project, though, you have some extra options because there's extra complexity involved. I'm going to dig deep into these settings here in just a moment, but before I do, I want to talk about the families themselves. When I click, about the options themselves. When I click here into options, when I go into options, there's a couple of things that I recommend you change from default. There's a few of these that are default settings and a few of these that you probably should update. First off, most of our tools have like, remember the size of the window. That's not a big deal. I like showing logs when this is all completed. It tells me what it did and did not do. If it failed anywhere, I like knowing that information. If any families had problems or projects had problems, it's always good to know what happened. The project file specific settings. Whenever you're doing an upgrade, this is true both for project files and for families, I strongly suggest turning on the audit. This will take more time when you're doing an upgrade to audit when you're upgrading, but that's one of the greatest places where corruption gets integrated into a model is during an upgrade. So an audit is a really good sort of first line defense against any kind of project corruption during that upgrade process. And that's true also for families. I've seen a lot of families that have just been upgraded forward, but no audits have been done. And over time, that can introduce some errors into that content, and that can creep into your project. So I always recommend when you're opening up families in new versions to upgrade them to audit. And this will automatically trigger audit on every file that this touches, both projects and families. You can turn off one or the other, but I strongly suggest you have both of them on. Also, Revit sometimes will display certain warnings during the project file upgrade. Things like, oh, I couldn't find this link. You know what? So what? I want you to upgrade the project anyway, and I don't want to babysit the process. So by checking this box, don't display Revit warnings that can be ignored, things that we already know how to handle, that are generally things we just click OK through that aren't a big deal. This thing will automatically suppress those messages for you, and that can save you a bunch of time. Now, there are some messages we don't know about, errors we haven't yet encountered and we don't know how to handle. And so there might be some pop-ups when you're upgrading projects that you do have to pay attention to. But for the most part, the vast majority of them on most projects can be ignored, and this tool will help suppress that. And the last one in projects here is showing a confirmation message. This just gives a final confirmation before, when you click OK, it'll say, I'm going to do these things. So you have one final chance before you actually commit to a long project upgrade. Families doesn't have that option because really families are pretty quick, and like I said, they're pretty straightforward, so you don't need the confirmation message. Again, at the very end of both project and family file upgrades, it will show you a log of everything that it did do or did not do, or any errors that may be cropped up. So it'll give you a log when you're all done. And at the very bottom here, this is an option I typically don't use, which is deleting the backup files for projects. This is only really useful if you're dealing with single user project files, and most of us probably are dealing with work sharing enabled projects. This is less relevant for all of us anyway, but if you are dealing with single user projects, you will get .00 files for project files when you upgrade or save things. And this will automatically delete those .00 project files, those backup files. This does not do anything with the backup files that relate to central files. They're handled differently and they're in a different kind of structure, and we don't touch that because that can cause other problems with the project. Family file options down here. We are including type catalogs. I would recommend doing this always when you upgrade a library to a new version. This is especially important if you're using the save to a different folder option to copy to new location in the families area, because this will guarantee your type catalogs come along for the ride. I have had some times when I didn't want that to happen, but generally I want my type catalogs coming forward, and so this is an option that I would recommend you check. You do have an option also of exporting preview images if you want. This will allow you to actually take the preview image and save it as a JPEG. It'll name it similar to how a type catalog is named, but it'll be a JPEG that gets saved next to the family in the destination directory. And then finally here, deleting backup family files. This is one that I almost always do. This is especially true if I'm saving to the same directory. I don't like those .00 files hanging out, and so I have this tool clean up after me for families. Less relevant for projects, very relevant for families. This gives me a nice, clean final directory. These are the options that I would recommend that you consider when you're first setting up your tool. The only thing I believe that's on by default here is the audit of families and projects by default, but I do recommend going in there and changing some of these options for yourself. Okay, once you have that set up, for families, once again, you browse to a folder, and it gives you a list of content. You can choose which ones you want to upgrade, or you can check all of them if you want to. Nice thing here, you can tell it to copy to a new location. You can give it a new destination directory, and this will, if you check this box, recreate all of the relative subfolders. For that to work, though, of course, you'd have to have included subfolders in your previous search, so it searched through the main folder that you specified and all subfolders. That'll let you potentially take an entire library and upgrade all of it in one step. And if I'm copying it to a new main directory, like a 2019 folder from 2018, I'm in 2018 today, I could upgrade this to 2019 very easily, or say 2017 to 2018, whatever, 2019 to 2020, anything you want to do. And this can recreate that relative subdirectory. And since in my options, I'm having it copy forward those type catalogs, it's bringing them along for the ride as well. You can also choose, if you copied the directory structure, to just keep everything in its same location. I don't see this very often, but sometimes I've seen people have version numbers in the Revit family name. If you do that, you can do find replace on this. Maybe I find version 18 and replace that with 19, or 19 with 20, or whatever. Or maybe you want to take and search for something and replace it with nothing. Maybe you want to strip prefixes from your company's name off of the family names. Or maybe you want to add a prefix or a suffix to the family. All that can be done, and it can be done either in place or when you copy to a new location. These settings right here are actually very similar to the projects tab over here, where you also have the ability to deal with prefixes, suffixes, and find replace, search for and replace. This is far more common in our project files, I think, than our family files. As you can see up here in this little refresh list that I have from my Revit models from my little demo folder, I have A18 or A17 or 16 from the different versions of Revit, and they do match my Revit version. I like to do this because with project files, if somebody opens in the wrong version, they can cause a lot of difficulty for the project team. So I like including my version numbers here. And in fact, when I upgraded my main demo model to 2018, I actually did take all my 2017 files and replace them with 2018, and I did my upgrade in my current location, so it kept them in their main folder. And you can see when I do that option, it leaves the original file behind, and it makes a new 2018 version of that same project. In my case, later on, I also came by and changed the dates on these files. I use that for my own personal records. All right. With projects specifically, there's some really important options that this tool can help you with. When you're upgrading project files, if I upgrade in my current location, I can force this to also upgrade my Revit links and also force it to rename my Revit links in place. Super key, because now all I have to do is pick my main project file. That's it. I can choose to upgrade just this one. And as I click OK, this project and family upgrader will open up that file and scan it for its links, but then it will close it down and upgrade all of the links first, and then come back and upgrade this file at the end, replacing all those linked paths right away. That can save so much headache in that whole workflow. So this goes to that full process. I can also choose, if I want to copy this to a new location. I've used this for archival processes, where I actually don't replace anything. I just kind of take a file and save it to a new directory, basically. And I remake my central files, and I can recreate my relative subfolders, which will copy all of my links and also set their relative paths appropriately if I want it to. I can have it copy forward all my CAD stuff if I need to, but I can have it copy from whatever its current folder is, and if I specify just this one file, automatically copy forward all my links, upgrade them, rename them, do all the work that it does, just like it would in its current location, but it saves it now in a new destination. So something that I really like to do. If you happen to be upgrading a project and you are not replacing any of the name at all, and you're saving it in the current location, it will replace the original file with the new version of Revit. So when you're doing that, just understand your old version is going to be replaced, and nobody will be able to work on it in that previous version. If you're doing that, I strongly suggest you archive that file first, you have record of it, and then go through the upgrade process just in case, because there are times we've had to roll back before, just in case you need to go back to that previous version iteration. The final thing that I recommend that you always do when you're working with these projects, well, maybe not always, but generally do, is for the open work sets here, I usually specify all. When I'm going through an upgrade and an audit process, I like to open up all of the work sets in there. Now, it's going to take a lot longer if you're being very selective about your work set opening, but it's going to guarantee that all of the objects get brought into memory 100%. Everything gets audited as this project file gets upgraded, and then all of it gets saved forward. And that's just my default option when I'm getting this thing opened up. It will open up everything, do all the work, get all the paths set, everything gets done in one step. A note about BIM 360, because I know somebody's going to ask this question at some point. This tool does not reach into BIM 360 and pull projects out of it to bring them local, to upgrade them, and then push them back up to a new project in BIM 360. We are working on a way of doing that, but for right now, it does not do that. This only works on files that are local to your network. With BIM 360, I recently discovered that to upgrade projects, you have to manually download your projects anyway, and then re-upload them to a new version project. This tool can help you with that upgrade portion, but it does not pull and push to and from BIM 360 right now. That is a future upgrade that we are looking at doing. In fact, if you're interested in this tool doing something like that, I would strongly encourage you, when you're using the Project and Family Upgrader, to use the request a feature and just gain some more momentum behind that. Add your voice to that particular feature request about making this tool work better with BIM 360, and explain more about what you'd like to see it do. All right, I've kind of covered the general basics of this tool. I'm not actually going to go through and upgrade this because nobody wants to sit here and watch a file upgrade. It does take time. When I click OK, I'll usually go grab lunch or sometimes let it run overnight depending on the file size, just because I don't want to wait for this whole thing to happen and, you know, babysit my computer. The whole point of this is that it does the work for me. I can walk away and do other things. Sometimes I'll use a second computer next to me and let it do the upgrade while I'm doing work on my main computer. But it's a great tool to help us so you don't have to babysit that process by hand. True for both families and for projects. Okay, how do you get your hands on this tool set? How can you obtain these yourself? Well, it's actually pretty easy. If you go to ctcsoftware.com, let's go there here, ctcsoftware.com. On our primary web page here, underneath products, you can go to the BIM Batch Suite right here, BIM Batch Suite 2020. The BIM Batch Suite has the ability for you to try this suite free for 14 days. This tool, the Projects and Families Upgrader, is a licensed tool, so it is affected by that 14-day trial. We do have some free tools, Family Loader and Family Exporter, that are free, but this is a licensed tool. It'll work for 14 days. Try it out for yourself, see if you like it. See if it works well for you. You try it free for 14 days, you install it. When you download it and install it, it automatically installs on Revit 2017 through Revit 2020 from that one download. That way, it makes it really easy for you to deploy this to your internal team. Probably this is more of a BIM management type tool. You want to be careful who gets their hands on this. You don't want just your everyday Revit user to be upgrading projects willy-nilly. So I would recommend being a little bit cautious about who gets this within the firm. But go ahead and try it out, see if it works for you. I want to thank you for the time that you've given us. We always enjoy when you show up to these live webinars and have the ability to interact with us if it's meaningful for you, and have the ability to ask questions when you want.